My mother's voice still rings in my ears, brittle and utterly devoid of concern, as if the incident were inconsequential. "Why didn't you turn up at the airport yesterday, sweetie?" Yesterday. She uttered the word with such insouciance, as though the day she completely shattered my confidence was just a random calendar marker, as if deliberately abandoning me at the airport was a mere oversight, as if I lacked the importance for them to even conduct a basic check. Yet, I am now acutely aware of the reality. Their deception was entirely premeditated. I vividly recall the sharp, tightening sensation in my throat when I finally placed the call. I was stranded in the vast terminal, my luggage resting at my feet, gazing at the completely deserted departure gate. "Where are you both right now?" Her voice, utterly bereft of any guilt, delivered the blow. "We're in Maui." That single exchange was the genesis of my understanding. My parents were not simply negligent. They actively sought to exclude me. Things were not always this way. Throughout my formative years in Salt Lake City, I sincerely believed they were conscientious parents. Elaborate birthday cakes, good grades, prominently affixed to the refrigerator, exciting family excursions. I was the compliant child, the dependable and steady influence. I studied diligently, maintained quiet composure, and strictly adhered to every rule. But affection, I have since deduced, functions as a measurable currency, and within my immediate family, my inherent value was significantly eclipsed by the glittering appeal of their favored ones. My younger brother, Marcus, could utterly fail his university courses, unleash juvenile tantrums, demolish their costly automobiles, and they would merely dismiss it with a light-hearted laugh. Me, one minor breach of curfew was instantly equated with an unforgivable act of betrayal. I repeatedly rationalized that they loved me in their own complicated fashion. I clung desperately to that belief until the stark reality of the Hawaiian deceit. The remaining details solidified later that evening when I reviewed my email inbox. The travel itinerary they had forwarded to me displayed the entirely incorrect data full 24 hours after the actual flight time. A perfect, precise fabrication. A single inaccurate digit in the flight time field. It was far too exact to be accidental. They intended to take the tropical vacation without my presence. They coveted liberation from the offspring who consistently reminded them of their own parental deficiencies. And in that pivotal moment, standing solitary in my empty residence, while their vacation photographs flourished across social media, their beaming faces framed by bright palm trees and impossibly azure waters, I ceased being their child. I evolved into their inevitable reckoning. I did not scream out. I did not shed a single tear. I did not plead for any explanation. Instead, I determined, if they could so easily excise me from their cherished memory, I would similarly obliterate something they valued far more than my presence. My motivation was not blind hostility but a demand for absolute equilibrium. Justice dispensed quietly and completely in silence. I commenced my surveillance. I listened attentively. My father, Arthur's business records, my mother, Alara's insatiable craving for superficial social approval online, my brother, Marcus's destructive spending habits and concealed lines of credit each possessed a visible, exploitable vulnerability. I merely had to apply precise pressure to these points until their collective structure fractured. First, my father, Arthur. He governed his minor engineering consultation, practiced like a precarious monarch in a decaying kingdom, inexcusably sloppy accounting, perpetually outstanding business tax obligations, and a deeply misplaced faith in distinctly untrustworthy associates. I quietly amassed old receipts, records of late tax filings, documents detailing fraudulent write-offs. I organized this evidence into a concise, anonymous package and discreetly dispatched it to the Internal Revenue Service. Next, my mother, Alara. She absolutely subsisted on maintaining flawless appearances. I retained knowledge of her digital access credentials. She never for a second imagined I would utilize them. I downloaded every single private direct message, every minor flirtation with other men who were unequivocally not my father. Then I patiently bided my time for the perfect opportunity. On their subsequent wedding anniversary, as they were frivolously celebrating in an upscale restaurant, my father's phone vibrated with an anonymous digital transfer. Every intimate word, every compromising image. He remained completely mute that night, but within 2 weeks, the severity of their bitter, furious altercations was clearly audible through the apartment walls. My brother, Marcus, presented the most straightforward target. He mistakenly believed he was clever, obscuring his excessive consumer debt with a cheap, prepaid debit card. I anonymously alerted his primary creditor that he had zero realistic intention of fulfilling his repayment obligations. They instantly froze his spending access. His automobile, his prized possession, was subsequently repossessed directly from the street, while his associates witnessed the public spectacle. One by one, every component of their meticulously crafted facade cracked and then completely disintegrated. And I maintained complete silence. The unassuming son, listening, offering polite smiles, successfully feigning total unawareness. Upon their return from their Hawaiian excursion, suntanned and still entirely complacent, they expected me to sulk, to be overly clingy, to desperately demand an explanation. Instead, I greeted them at the arrival gate with a perfectly genuine, warm smile. "How was your vacation?" I inquired. "Splendid," my mother, Alara, replied, her eyes quickly scanning me, searching for any subtle indication of lingering resentment. I deliberately offered her none. That measured control was my ultimate leverage. They remained blissfully ignorant that I had already lit the long fuse. Several weeks quietly elapsed. My father's corporate account was subjected to an intense federal financial audit. My mother, Alara's flawless standing within her social cohort completely vanished overnight. Disturbing whispers regarding her indiscretions propagated like a fast-moving inferno. My brother, Marcus, desperately pleaded with them for financial relief, but they were already too overwhelmingly consumed by the severity of their own swift collapse. Finally, the inevitable night arrived when we gathered silently at the dinner table. The resulting silence was more potent and oppressive than the near weight of the meal before us. My father's hands visibly trembled as he attempted to slice his portion of meat. My mother rigidly avoided meeting my direct gaze. My brother muttered low, continuous expletives under his breath. I calmly placed my fork onto my plate, looking pointedly at each of them in sequence. "Do you recall the trip to Hawaii?" I asked, my tone almost a whisper. They froze instantly. I leaned back slightly, my voice sustained, calm, and utterly purposeful. "You deliberately abandoned and deceived me. Do you genuinely comprehend the effect that singular action had upon me?" No one responded. I then smiled, a chillingly cold, self-assured expression. "It compelled me to recognize that you were nothing more than mere individuals, fundamentally flawed, inherently weak, overtly cruel, and that any individual can ultimately be dismantled." Their faces instantly lost all color and animation. They did not require any further detailed explanation from me. Deep within their consciousness, they already suspected the architect of their downfall, and within that terrible silence, the entire dynamic of authority and control shifted permanently, and without recourse. I did not raise my voice in protest. I did not insist upon any tearful apologies. I had no requirement for either. Their established lives systematically disintegrated without leaving a single visible trace of my direct involvement. My father's declining enterprise fully collapsed within the year. My mother subsequently moved out, frantically attempting to salvage her shattered reputation. My brother simply continued to drift aimlessly, perpetually financially burdened and utterly bewildered about the inexplicable disappearance of his former good fortune. And me, I finally drew a deep, unobstructed breath of true freedom, and simply walked away from them all.